All right, good morning. My name is Anna Irwin, and I am here at Autry Technology Center, and we are putting together a series of classes called Professional Skills, and the first one we're going to start with is communication. Okay, one of the first things we want to talk about when we are talking about communication is frame of reference. Frame of reference. Another word for it can be paradigm. Paradigm. And what that's referring to is the fact that each of us in our heads have a file system, so to speak. And the file system comes from a lot of different things, but they can be broken down into two categories pretty much. One of them is nature, and the other is nurture. Now, nature has to do with the fact that we all come into the world with a few presets or defaults, if you will. For instance, some of us have blue eyes, some of us have brown eyes. Some are male, some are female. Some are left-handed, some are right-handed. Those are some of the obvious things. But it also has to do with how our mind works and how we approach life. Believe it or not, we are not a blank slate when we show up. The second thing is nurture. And nurture has to do with how we experience things in life, how we gather information from that. Our mind and our brain is very busy looking for patterns that it can use in the future. So when we do this, we set up a filter system. Now, this lovely picture here that you see is my rendition of a filter system. It's a funnel, and these lines represent the filters that we use as we're passing information and experiences through these filters to get to our understanding. So let's say person A and person B are working together, and they're on a project together, and they've got to get to X. This is the common ground. They've got to get down here. Now, in order to do that, they're going to do some communicating. So let's say A shares some thoughts with B, okay? And B does likewise. B shares some thoughts with A. What happens when B shares with A takes that information, and this is all on autopilot. You don't even have necessarily a sense unless you make yourself aware, and awareness is a powerful tool when it comes to communicating. So A then takes that information and runs it through their filter system. And none of us experience the world the same way. So what will happen is when A filters that out, A gets their idea or rendition of what B said. Now the same thing is happening over here. A is giving B information, and B is then running that information through their filter system, and they're coming up with their version of it. Now, having said that, if you'll notice, we still have a different version, and we have to get here, the common denominator, so to speak. If you want to think about communication is often an equation, us sharing and giving and taking with each other, and then somehow coming to that common answer, that common denominator. Now, one of the most powerful things that you can do at this point, and one of the most necessary things, is for me to ask questions. The only way I'm going to understand your frame of reference is by me asking questions, and then of course if I ask a question, I need to listen for the answer. So in some of our future videos, we'll talk about those specific skills, because that's how I check out what your frame of reference is. Think about we have a saying that is walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, or there's a word for such a thing, it's called empathy. And what empathy means is I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. What is your frame of reference? Once we understand each other's frame of reference, it's easier for us to share ideas and share information and then get to here by common agreement. So what we've done basically is increase each other's frame of reference by talking about these different ideas and then coming to that common ground, that common denominator where we agree on how we're going to move forward, what it is we're going to do. The really interesting part about this is, now that we've worked together, Here's the fun part. What happens is, for A, now that I have an experience for working with B, what I will do is I will take that experience and I will file it away in my frame of reference. So now I have future frame of reference for working with B. And that file never goes away. Our brain never gets rid of a single file. Never gets rid of a single file. It just continues to add to and use that information, creating a stronger and stronger filing system. And the same thing happens for B. Now through this experience, I've added to my file systems. I've added to my file systems about this idea, and I've added to my file systems about you. There's multi-layering of this experience that goes into my frame of reference. Thanks.